let's move on to Napoli. Yes, Group C, Napoli,
Woo!
Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. On paper, this is signed, sealed, delivered. Napoli and Real Madrid. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Even without Vinicius, who is injured, and we think the first game for sure, maybe even potentially the second game in this group stage, and we don't know yet, by the way, the fixtures. And I think in some of those groups, the fixtures can have quite a big impact, because if you play back-to-back the best team in your group, that might be a different dynamic and stuff. However, in this, you're right. What I love is that Union Berlin are going to be the outsider. They're going to be there trying to annoy your team, be tough to play against. I don't expect them to be good enough to overtake Napoli or Real Madrid, and Napoli and Real Madrid are going to qualify, of course. But Union are going to be there, and it's a great story in itself. They're going to play at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin, not in their usual stadium, because that was going to be too small. And Braga, just a good team, but that's all they are. So I expect Union to finish third, and then between Napoli and Real Madrid, Gabi, who do you have to finish first and who do you have to finish second?
I have to go with Real Madrid because of the pedigree and all the other stuff. Although, after what Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen did last year, you don't put anything beyond them. I think they've managed to deal with, so far, to the Spalletti to Rudy Garcia change. They managed to deal with that pretty well. I don't. You don't want to write off Union Berlin because, as you said, they're awkward to play against and whatever. And Braga, Ricardo Horta is a player I've long liked. He can do some damage, but there is a clear gulf, I think, between Napoli and Real Madrid and the others. But we're in agreement on that. All right, let's move on to where we might not be in agreement. Group D, we have last year's finalist Inter paired up against Benfica as well. Salzburg and Real Sociedad. I find this quite interesting because people will debate whether Inter are better after the summer, obviously moving on from Lukaku and Dzeko and Brozovic. I love Frattesi coming in. Love Pavard a little bit less. I do think last season's experience does matter for something, Jules. I think psychologically also the fact that they bested Benfica last season matters. I think, the Benfica that was so good in the first half of the season, we didn't see in the second half of the season, and obviously changes, right? Di Maria coming in, Chubin, who I think we both like, and but then Gonzalo Ramos gone, and obviously Alex Grimaldo too. So I have Inter ahead of Benfica. I still have Inter. I actually have Inter and Real Sociedad advancing from this group. We're big Imanol fans. People tell me this guy Zacharian's really, really good. I've only seen glimpses so far. And I think Andre Silva gives them, that other striking option. And then there's a Kieran Tierney sideline too. And Salzburg, they lost a lot. They lost Okafor, they lost Sesko, they lost Savo as well. It's a big and Eisler, who was a big part of it.
Yeah, if you look at their front three, they're really young, and I think it's an exciting team, of course, but without Yasler, who went to Saudi Arabia, as you mentioned, with all that youth that they have, that only takes you to a certain level, really. So I think for Salzburg, there won't be a last 16. However, then Inter to qualify, then between Benfica and Real Sociedad, it would be interesting because this Real Sociedad team hasn't really clicked yet in La Liga. It's been a slow start. You expect them to pick up the pace, to get better, of course. Emmanuel is a great coach. You're right. The recruitment has been very interesting. But Benfica as well have done well. Roger Schmidt has done magnificently last season. They've signed new, really good players. The experience of Di Maria, I think, is very valuable. Even if you don't have Gonzalo Ramos, I think Benfica can really finish second. But so can Real Sociedad. So I really expect Inter to be top of this group and to have a good kind of peaceful group stage, if you want. And then behind them, between Benfica and Real Sociedad, we'll have a proper battle with maybe Salzburg trying to get points there and there especially at home, to both of those teams. So you go for Real Sociedad, I'll go for Benfica, just behind Inter in that group.
There you go. Next group down, it's Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic, Jules.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to say? This is the one group that really doesn't do it for me, Gabby. I'm sorry. I mean, I love those clubs. I think the fan base is, for Celtic and Feyenoord, exceptional, of course. And if you've never been to the Cape, go. If you've never been to Celtic Park, go. They are on your bucket list of stadiums that you have to visit. But this is not a group that really, really does it for me.
Okay, so you're not impressed with the group, and people on paper will say that this is the weakest group. I think we always say the same things about Atletico Madrid, right? We don't like the way they played when he tried to make it, go to Atleti 2.0. It worked out for a while, and then it stopped working out. I don't know that Griezmann can have the same kind of season this year that he had last year, certainly in the second half of the season. A lot's going to depend there, but I think they still have to be my favorites in the group. For second, I don't know. I don't know about Lazio. They lost a lot in Milinkovic-Savic. Obviously, they lost their first 2 games of the season. Maurizio Sarri, again, showing that there's such a fine line between genius and folly. I think Daichi Kamada is going to help in midfield. If they get Guendouzi too, then sure, that's more energy. But it is a big, big transition, I think, from where they were. Whereas Feyenoord, they've hung on to most of their stars, to many of them, that got them to where they are. In fact, if anything, they lost them the year before. I don't know. I am going to go for Atleti and Feyenoord to pip them to second place. We haven't talked about Celtic, and I don't disrespect the Celtic fans. Obviously, Brendan going back to where he had so much success. But my concern is it's just hard to follow Ange Postecoglou, right?
Yeah, but I believe in Celtic. And you know what? I would have Celtic finishing second. I think it's very level between Feyenoord, Lazio, and Celtic. And I think if Celtic Park becomes a fortress, if they win their 3 home games, for example, or do really well in their 3 home games, can get something in one of the away games, they can well finish second. So I want to believe in Rodgers. I want to believe in Kyogo and those guys who did well in the Champions League last season with Ange, even if it was not enough, because that group, Leipzig, Real Madrid, Shakhtar, was a tough group for them. They were maybe a bit naive at times, but maybe they've learned from that. And I think having Rodgers back, having this group that it could have been far worse for them, being in pot 4, to have that group, they need to have belief. And again, I think Celtic Park will be rocking in those 3 home games. They will take that support away from home too. So I want to believe in Celtic. So I'll go Atletico first. I agree with you. And then I'll have Celtic second to be one of the surprises of this group stage.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.